She lived in a world where people constantly augmented themselves to become stronger and smarter. It was during this time that a new brain implant was invented, capable of displaying the status window of an individual's physical and mental attributes, including their weaknesses and flaws. For her, the status window implanted in her brain only served to reinforce her feelings of inadequacy, as she had always felt like an outsider in her own skin, like a puzzle with missing pieces that she could never quite find. But one day, she decided enough was enough. She would no longer be the victim of her own insecurities. She would take control of her own destiny and seek perfection, no matter the cost. She started with minor augmentations, just a few tweaks here and there to increase her strength and agility. But she soon realized that wasn't enough. She needed more. She craved the feeling of being invincible, of being better than everyone else. And so, she began to undergo experimental surgeries, ones that promised to turn her into the perfect human specimen. At first, it was all worth it. She felt like a goddess, a being of unparalleled strength and intellect. But as time wore on, she began to realize the cost of her perfection. Her body was a patchwork of scars and implants, and her mind was a chaotic whirlwind of emotions and thoughts. She was no longer herself. She was a monster, a freak of nature that couldn't even remember what it felt like to be content with herself. And as she lay dying on the operating table, her heart failing under the strain of all the procedures, she realized the true cost of her quest for perfection. She was no longer herself. She was a monster, a freak of nature that couldn't even remember what it felt like to be content with herself. And as she lay dying on the operating table, she realized the true cost of her quest for perfection. It wasn't just the physical scars or the pain she endured, but rather an extremely rare and fatal side effect of the experimental surgeries she underwent. The very thing that was meant to make her stronger and more perfect had instead caused her body to break down, and there was no turning back. As she took her last breath, she wished she could go back, wished she could undo all the surgeries and procedures that had led her to this moment. But it was too late. The damage had been done, and all she could do was reflect on the lesson she had learned too late. The true beauty of humanity was in its flaws, in the imperfections that made each person unique. It was in the struggle to overcome those weaknesses and become a better version of oneself, not in the pursuit of an unattainable perfection.